When Wolf River pulled over on that merciless October night, he thought he was just helping a stranger caught in the rain. But the woman sobbing at that abandoned bus stop, blind, soaked to the bone, left behind like she was nothing, was hiding a truth so twisted it would shatter everything he thought he knew about cruelty and love. This is a story about a single father, a blind woman abandoned in a storm, and the daughter who reminded them both what family really means. Before we continue, please tell us, where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. The rain was hammering down so hard that Wolf River could barely see 2 feet in front of his pickup truck. It was 7:30 on a Thursday evening in Cedar Falls, Ohio, and the world had turned gray and cold and unforgiving. His hands ached from 12 straight hours of carpentry work, installing kitchen cabinets for a client who changed her mind about the measurements 3 times. At 34 years old, his body was starting to remind him that long days took their toll. But he couldn't complain, not when he had a 7-year-old daughter waiting at home who depended on him for everything. He was thinking about Honey, probably negotiating with Uncle Andre right now for extra cookies before bed, when his headlights caught something that made his heart stop cold. At the old bus stop on the edge of town, the one that nobody used anymore, someone was sitting on the bench, not sheltering from the rain, not waiting with an umbrella or proper coat, just sitting there, hunched over, completely soaked, head bowed in a posture that spoke of absolute despair. And they were alone, utterly, devastatingly alone. Wolf's first instinct was to keep driving. He was exhausted, it was late, and getting involved in someone else's crisis never ended simply. But then he pictured Honey in that position, cold, wet, helpless, and his foot hit the brake before his brain caught up with his heart. He pulled over and stepped out into the storm. As Wolf got closer to the bus stop, his stomach twisted into a knot. The figure was a woman, maybe late 20s, with long blonde hair plastered to her face and neck. She wore a thin green dress that was now completely transparent from the rain. A small wheeled suitcase lay on its side in a puddle beside her. But what absolutely shattered Wolf's heart was the sound. She was sobbing, not crying quietly, but sobbing, deep, wrenching sounds that shook her entire frame, the kind of crying that came from somewhere so dark and broken it hurt just to witness. Her hands covered her face, and Wolf noticed something that made his chest tighten. Around her eyes was a black blindfold, soaked through like everything else. She was blind.
"Ma'am," Wolf called out, raising his voice over the rain but keeping his tone gentle. "Ma'am, are you okay?" The woman's head jerked up at his voice, but her eyes, hidden behind that wet blindfold, didn't focus on him. Her whole body went rigid with fear. "Please," she gasped, her voice raw and broken from crying. "Please, I'm just waiting for the bus. Please just leave me alone." "Ma'am, the last bus came through hours ago," Wolf said carefully, taking another step closer. "There won't be another one until tomorrow morning. You can't stay out here. You're freezing." "I have to wait," she insisted, and her voice cracked on the words. He promised someone would come. He promised!" Fresh sobs tore from her throat, so full of anguish that Wolf felt his own eyes start to sting. This wasn't just someone who was lost. This was someone whose entire world had collapsed. Wolf crouched down a few feet away, making himself less threatening. "Ma'am, I don't know what happened to you, but I can see you're hurting. My name is Wolf River. I live right here in Cedar Falls. I can take you somewhere safe. The hospital, the police station, wherever you want to go. But please, you can't stay out here. You're going to get hypothermia." The woman was shaking so violently her teeth chattered. I don't know where to go. I don't have anything." Her voice broke completely on that last word, and she pressed her mouth against her hands as if trying to physically hold back the sobs. But they came anyway, ripping through her like the storm itself. Wolf's heart shattered. "Then come with me, just to get warm and dry. I promise you're safe. I have a daughter at home. She's 7. I swear to you, I only want to help." For what felt like an eternity, the woman didn't move. Then, slowly, she nodded, her whole body trembling. Wolf gently helped her to her feet. She was unsteady,
disoriented, and retrieved her small suitcase and carefully guided her to his truck, his hand light on her elbow. Once she was in the passenger seat, he cranked the heat up as high as it would go and draped his rain jacket around her shoulders. She pulled it close, still shivering, still crying, quieter now, but no less broken. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice so small it barely rose above the sound of rain hammering on the truck roof. "Thank you." Wolf's throat felt tight. "What's your name?" "Bliss," she said after a moment. "Bliss Frost." "Bliss, I'm going to take you to my house so you can get in dry clothes and get warm. Then we'll figure out the rest, okay?" She nodded, unable to speak, and Wolf pulled back onto the road with his heart heavy and his mind racing with a single burning question. Who had left this woman at a bus stop in the middle of a storm? Wolf's house on Maple Street was small but warm, with golden light glowing in the windows. He helped Bliss inside, where his younger brother, Andre, was sprawled on the couch reading a thriller novel. "Wolf, what—" Andre stopped mid-sentence when he saw Bliss, taking in her soaked clothes, the blindfold, the way she trembled. "What happened?" "Found her at the old bus stop. She needs help," said Wolf quietly. "Can you grab towels and see if there's anything of Melanie's that might fit her?" Andre's expression shifted immediately to understanding and compassion. Wolf's late wife had been gone for 5 years now, but some of her clothes were still tucked away in boxes. "Of course, I'll be right back." Wolf guided Bliss to the couch, helping her sit. "You're safe now. You're inside. You're warm. Nobody's going to hurt you here." Bliss's hands clutched at the jacket still wrapped around her. "Where's your daughter?" "Asleep upstairs. Her name's Honey. I don't want to scare her. I must look—" "You look like someone who's been through something terrible," Wolf said gently, "and that's okay. You don't have to explain anything right now."
Andre returned with an armful of towels and dry clothes, soft gray sweatpants and a cream-colored sweater that had belonged to Melanie. Wolf led Bliss to the bathroom, carefully describing the layout. "The shower's straight ahead. Controls are on the left. Turn it toward the right for hot. Towels are on the rack to your right. I'm leaving dry clothes on the counter. Take all the time you need." "Thank you," Bliss managed, her voice thick with emotion. I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to thank me," Wolf said softly. "Just get warm." While Bliss was in the bathroom, Wolf changed into dry clothes and joined Andre in the kitchen. "What the hell happened to her?" Andre asked, keeping his voice low. "I don't know yet. Found her crying at that old bus stop, completely alone, soaked to the bone. She's blind, Andre. Someone left a blind woman out in the rain with nowhere to go." Andre's jaw tightened with anger. "That's messed up. Should we call the police?" "Let's see what she wants to do first. She's traumatized enough without us pushing her into anything." 30 minutes later, Bliss emerged from the bathroom. Her blonde hair was still damp but no longer dripping, and Melanie's clothes hung slightly loose on her smaller frame. The blindfold was still in place, and Wolf realized she probably needed it. It must give her some sense of security in an unfamiliar environment. She looked small and lost and utterly exhausted. Wolf guided her back to the couch, and Andre brought her hot tea with honey. She wrapped her hands around the mug, absorbing its warmth, and for a long moment, nobody spoke. "Bliss," Wolf said gently, "you don't have to tell us anything if you're not ready, but we want to help if we can." Bliss's lip trembled. "I don't even know where to start." "Start wherever feels right," Andre said kindly. Bliss was quiet for a long moment. Then, very quietly, she began to cry again. Not the broken sobs from before, but softer, sadder tears that spoke of exhaustion and hopelessness. "I was left there," she whispered, "at that bus stop. I was told to wait, that someone would come for me. But nobody came, and I realized," her voice broke, "I realized nobody was ever going to come." Wolf's hands clenched with fury at whoever had done this. "Who left you there, Bliss?" But she shook her head, unable to say more. "I'm sorry. I can't talk about it yet. It hurts too much." "That's okay," Wolf said immediately. "You don't have to explain anything. You're safe here, and that's what matters right now." Bliss nodded, tears streaming down from beneath the blindfold.
"I'm so tired." "Then let's get you to bed. You can rest, and we'll figure everything else out tomorrow." Wolf led her to the guest room, the small bedroom at the end of the hall that he'd been meaning to paint for months. He made sure she knew where everything was, describing the layout carefully so she could navigate. "If you need anything, anything at all, just call out. One of us will hear you." "Thank you," Bliss whispered, her voice breaking. "Thank you for not leaving me there." Wolf's throat was tight. "I would never leave someone out there. Never."
After Bliss was settled, Wolf sat in the kitchen with Andre, both men quiet and troubled. "She's terrified," Andre said softly. "Whatever happened to her, it was bad." "I know," Wolf said, his voice heavy. "All we can do is give her a safe place and time. The rest will come when she's ready." That night, Wolf lay awake listening to the rain, thinking about the broken woman in his guest room and wondering what kind of cruelty had put her there. Wolf woke early the next morning to find Bliss already up, sitting at the kitchen table with her hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that Andre must have made for her. Her blindfold was still in place, and her face was pale and drawn. She'd clearly been crying again. Her cheeks were tear-stained and her eyes swollen beneath the fabric. "Couldn't sleep?" Wolf asked gently as he poured himself coffee. Bliss shook her head. "Every time I close my eyes, I'm back at that bus stop, waiting in the rain, realizing he wasn't coming back." Wolf's chest tightened. "He? Who's he, Bliss?" She was quiet for a long moment, her fingers trembling against the mug. Then she took a deep, shaking breath, and Wolf could see her gathering courage. "It was my husband, Slate. He's the one who left me at that bus stop." The words hung in the air like a bomb that had just detonated. Wolf set down his coffee mug very carefully, his hands clenching with controlled rage, but he said nothing. He waited, letting her continue. "We'd been married for 4 years, Bliss said, her voice hollow. "When I first went blind 9 months ago from a retinal infection, he seemed supportive. He said all the right things. He took over managing our finances to reduce my stress. I was so lost in my grief over losing my sight that I just let him." Her voice hardened slightly. "But about 2 months ago, I started hearing things. Phone calls he'd take in another room. Him telling his brother about moving assets and covering tracks. When I asked him about it, he told me I was paranoid, that my blindness was making me imagine things. He was gaslighting you," Wolf said, and anger simmered beneath every word. "Yes, for weeks. And I started to believe him, started to think maybe I was losing my mind along with my sight." Bliss's hands trembled around the mug. "Then, yesterday morning, he told me we were going to see a specialist who might be able to help with my condition. I was desperate, so I believed him. We drove for hours. He pulled over at that bus stop, said he needed to make a phone call, told me to wait on the bench because his phone battery was dying and he needed to walk around to get better reception." Her voice broke completely. I waited for hours, Wolf, in the rain, getting colder and colder, calling out for him, and slowly realizing that he wasn't coming back, that he'd just left me there. Left me in the middle of nowhere, with no phone, no money, no identification. He wanted me to disappear. The sobs came then, deep and devastating, and Wolf moved to sit beside her without thinking, his hand gentle on her shoulder. "I trusted him, Wolf. I loved him, and he threw me away like I was nothing, like I was garbage." "You're not garbage," Wolf said fiercely. "You're a person who was betrayed by someone who should have protected you. That's not your fault, Bliss. That's his cruelty, not your worth." Bliss turned toward his voice, and even though he couldn't see her eyes behind the blindfold, he could feel the weight of her pain radiating from her. "He took everything from me, Wolf. My sight, my business, my independence. I had almost $200,000 saved from my jewelry design business, 10 years of hard work creating custom pieces for clients all over the country. I think he's been stealing it. I think that's why he left me, so he could take it all, and I'd be too helpless to stop him." Wolf's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. We're going to stop him. Today, we're going to the police. We're going to make sure he pays for what he did to you." "How? I have no proof. I'm blind. Who's going to believe me?" "I believe you," Wolf said firmly, "and we're going to fight this together." Before Bliss could respond, there was the thunder of small feet on the stairs, and Honey burst into the kitchen in her butterfly pajamas, her blonde hair a wild tangle around her face. "Daddy, Uncle Andre said we have a—" She stopped abruptly when she saw Bliss, her eyes going wide. "Oh, hello. Are you the lady Daddy helped last night?" "Honey, remember your manners," Wolf said gently, but there was warmth in his voice. Honey climbed into the chair next to Bliss, studying her with the unfiltered curiosity that only 7-year-olds possessed. "I'm Honey. Why are you wearing a blindfold? Are you playing a game?" "Honey," Wolf started, but Bliss held up a hand. "It's okay." She turned toward Honey's voice, and something in her expression softened. "I'm wearing it because I'm blind, sweetheart. I can't see anymore, so the blindfold helps me feel more comfortable." "Oh," Honey said, processing this with the seriousness of a child trying to understand something important. "That must be really hard, but you know what? My teacher has a blind uncle, and she says he can do almost anything except drive a car, so you're probably really brave." Despite everything, Bliss smiled, small and fragile, but genuine. "Thank you, Honey. That's very kind." "Why were you at the bus stop all alone in the rain? Didn't you know the bus doesn't come at night?" Bliss's face faded. "Someone left me there. Someone who should have taken care of me." Honey's face scrunched up with indignation. "That's really mean. When you love someone, you're supposed to protect them. That's what my daddy does for me. Right, Daddy?" "Right, sweetheart." His voice tight with emotion. Honey reached out and patted Bliss's hand with the earnest gentleness of a child who understood pain even if she couldn't fully comprehend its source. "Well, you don't have to be alone anymore. You can stay with us. We have an extra room, and Daddy makes really good pancakes, and I can describe things to you so you know what they look like. I'm very good at using words." Bliss's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they felt different, warmer somehow. "You're a very sweet girl, Honey." "I know," Honey said matter-of-factly. "Daddy says I get it from my mommy. She died when I was little, but Daddy says her kindness lives in me." Wolf watched as his daughter's innocent compassion seemed to reach something deep inside Bliss, something that had been buried under all that pain and betrayal. She was still broken, still hurting, but there was the tiniest crack of light now. "Your mommy must have been wonderful," Bliss whispered. "She was," Honey said seriously. "But you know what? Daddy's wonderful too, and Uncle Andre, and now you're here, and maybe you're wonderful too. We just have to wait and see." And for the first time since Wolf had found her sobbing in the rain, Bliss's smile reached beyond her pain and touched something that looked almost like hope. That afternoon, Wolf took Bliss to the Cedar Falls Police Department. Detective Rachel Morrison listened to Bliss's story with growing concern, and within hours, with the help of the department's tech specialist, they accessed Bliss's cloud storage, digital backups she'd kept of her jewelry business that Slate hadn't known about. The evidence was damning. Slate had been systematically draining her accounts for months, transferring $186,000 to offshore accounts. He'd started the transfers 2 weeks after she went blind. He'd also taken out a life insurance policy on her 6 months earlier. "He was going to have you declared dead," Wolf said, the realization hitting him like a punch to the gut. Detective Morrison nodded grimly. "We're issuing a warrant for his arrest. With this evidence, we have a strong case." Wolf insisted Bliss stay with them while the investigation moved forward. At first, she was hesitant, but Honey's enthusiasm wore down her resistance. "Besides," Honey said seriously, "I already told everyone at school about my new friend Bliss. If you leave now, I'll look like a liar." So Bliss stayed, and slowly, carefully, she began to heal. Wolf connected her with a mobility training specialist named Patricia, who helped her navigate the world with confidence. Patricia had been blind for 20 years herself and understood exactly what Bliss was going through. "Your independence isn't gone,"
Patricia told her during their first session. It's just different now, and different doesn't mean less. Those words stayed with Bliss as she learned to navigate Wolf's house, then the neighborhood, then the town itself. Each small victory, making coffee by herself, walking to the mailbox alone, finding her way to the porch without guidance, felt like reclaiming a piece of herself that Slate had tried to take. Honey appointed herself Bliss's official describer of things, spending hours after school painting verbal pictures of everything around them. The pasta is like little curly telephone cords, and the sauce is red like fire trucks, and the cheese on top looks like snow, but yellow snow, which Daddy says we should never eat if it's actually snow, but this is cheese, so it's okay. Bliss would laugh, genuine laughter that came more easily with each passing day. You paint quite a picture, honey. That's because I'm going to be a famous author someday, Honey would announce with absolute certainty, and you're going to be in all my books as the brave lady who learned to see with her heart. These moments of lightness punctuated the harder days, the days when panic attacks left Bliss gasping, when the memory of that bus stop felt too close. But Wolf was always there, steady and patient, never pushing, just present. One particularly difficult night, about 2 months after she'd moved in, Wolf heard crying from the guest room around 2 a.m. He knocked softly. "Bliss, are you okay?" "I'm sorry," came her broken voice. "I didn't mean to wake you. I had a nightmare. I was back there, and this time nobody came at all." "Can I come in?" "Yes." Wolf found her sitting on the edge of the bed, shaking. He sat beside her, not touching, just there. "But somebody did come," Wolf said quietly. "I came, and you're not there anymore. You're here, safe with people who care about you. You're never going to be that alone again." "How can you be so sure?" "Because we're not going anywhere. You're stuck with us now. Me, Honey, Andre, Patricia, Detective Morrison. You've got a whole team of people who aren't going to let anything happen to you." Bliss turned toward his voice, and even in the darkness, even with the blindfold, Wolf could feel the intensity of her emotion. "Why? Why do you care so much about someone you barely know?" Wolf was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "When Melanie died, I felt lost, like part of me had died too. I went through the motions for Honey's sake, but I wasn't really living. Then I pulled over that night and saw you, and something in me woke up. Maybe it's because I know what it's like to feel broken. Maybe it's because I saw someone who needed help and I couldn't just drive past. Or maybe it's just because you're worth caring about, Bliss. You're worth showing up for." Bliss's breath hitched. "I don't feel worth anything right now." "That's the lie trauma tells you. But I see you, Bliss. I see your strength, your resilience, the way you get up every morning and try again even when you're terrified. That's worth everything." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, and gradually Bliss's breathing steadied. "Thank you," she finally whispered. "Anytime," Wolf said, and he meant it. About 4 months after moving in, Bliss started thinking about her jewelry design business again. "Before I went blind, I designed custom pieces for clients all over the country," she told Wolf one evening as they sat on the porch. Spring was finally starting to arrive, bringing warmth back to Ohio. "People would send me their stories, their love stories, their grandmother's stories, their dreams, and I'd design something that captured that emotion in metal and stone." "You could do that again, design by touch." "Do you really think so?" "Bliss, I've watched you navigate a world you can't see with more grace than most people who can. If anyone can create beauty without sight, it's you." Bliss was quiet for a moment, considering. "My hands still remember. When I hold metal, when I feel the weight of a stone, I can still sense what it wants to become." "Then let them remember," Wolf encouraged. "Let them create." Within weeks, Bliss had set up a workspace in Wolf's garage. She ordered specialized tools designed for tactile work and started with simple pieces, relearning the feel of different metals, the weight of stones, the way heat changed textures under her fingertips. Wolf would come home from his carpentry jobs to find her bent over her workbench, fingers moving with precision and confidence, creating shapes and forms that seemed to appear like magic under her touch. "How do you know it's beautiful if you can't see it?" Honey asked one afternoon, watching with fascination as Bliss shaped a piece of silver wire into an intricate pattern. "Beauty isn't just what you see," Bliss explained, her fingers never stopping their work. "It's what you feel, the balance of weight, the smoothness of curves, the way different textures complement each other. I can feel when something is right, when all the pieces fit together perfectly. Sometimes I think I understand beauty better now than I did before, because I'm not distracted by what things look like. I can focus purely on how they feel, how they make people feel. Like how I know Daddy's hugs are the best even with my eyes closed?" Bliss smiled. "Exactly like that." Her first completed piece after going blind was a pendant, a silver tree with roots that became branches, symbolizing growth and transformation. She gave it to Honey as a thank you gift. "It's beautiful," Honey breathed, running her fingers over the intricate metalwork the way she'd seen Bliss do. "It feels like a real tree, but tiny and perfect." "It's a reminder," Bliss said, "that even when things seem broken, even when you lose something important, you can still grow, sometimes in directions you never expected." Honey threw her arms around Bliss's waist. "I love it. I'm going to wear it every single day and tell everyone that my friend Bliss made it with magic hands." Soon, word spread about the blind jewelry designer creating extraordinary pieces by touch alone. Clients who'd worked with Bliss before her sight loss reached out, excited to commission new pieces. New clients came too, drawn initially by the story, but staying for the exceptional craftsmanship. Her work became sought after not just for its beauty, but for what it represented: the triumph of the human spirit over adversity, the refusal to let loss define you, the transformation of pain into art. Within 6 months of restarting her business, Bliss was making more than she ever had before. Each piece came with a story, her story of survival, of rebuilding, of finding beauty in darkness. Wolf watched her transform from the broken, sobbing woman he'd found at that bus stop into someone fierce, creative, and determined. She was finding herself again. Not the person she'd been before Slate, but someone stronger, more resilient, more authentically herself. And somewhere in those healing months, Wolf realized with a clarity that took his breath away that he was falling in love with her. But he kept it to himself. Bliss was focusing on her healing, rebuilding her business, preparing mentally for the upcoming trial. The last thing she needed was the pressure of his feelings complicating her recovery. So he loved her quietly, in the way he made sure her favorite tea was always stocked, in the way he described sunsets to her in elaborate detail, in the way he listened to her fears at 3 a.m. without judgment. He loved her in silence, and he was okay with that. Her happiness was enough. 8 months after that rainy October night, Slate's trial began. He'd been arrested in Nevada 3 months earlier, living in a rented condo paid for with Bliss's stolen money, and the evidence against him was overwhelming. Wolf sat in the front row with Honey, Andre, Patricia, and dozens of community members who'd come to support Bliss. When Bliss took the witness stand, she removed her blindfold for the first time in public. Her eyes were striking green, beautiful but unseeing, and there was something incredibly powerful about her choosing to face Slate without that protection. She told her story clearly, presenting the evidence that proved his theft. When it came time for her victim impact statement, the courtroom fell silent. "Slate," Bliss said, her voice steady and clear, "you took everything from me. You left me blind and alone in the rain with no way to survive. You hoped I would die so you could collect insurance money. You looked at your wife and decided she was worth more dead than alive." Her voice hardened. "But I didn't disappear. I survived. I found people who showed me what real love looks like. I rebuilt my business. I rebuilt my life. I became stronger than I ever was with you." She turned toward where he sat. "You thought my blindness made me weak, but you were wrong.
It made me see more clearly than ever. See your cruelty, see the good people around me, see my own strength. While you rot in prison, I'll be living a beautiful life. You didn't break me, Slate. You freed me." Honey whispered to Wolf, "Daddy, is Bliss a superhero?" Wolf squeezed his daughter's hand, tears in his eyes. "Yes, sweetheart, she really is."
The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Slate was sentenced to 10 years in prison and ordered to pay full restitution plus damages totaling over $300,000. As he was led away in handcuffs, Bliss stood tall, her blindfold back in place, shoulders straight and proud. Justice had been served. The nightmare was over. And Slate signed the divorce papers before being thrown into prison. The months after the trial were transformative. With her money being restored and the legal battle behind her, Bliss felt lighter than she had in years. Her jewelry business flourished. She hired an assistant named Maya, a recent art school graduate who handled the visual aspects, photographing pieces, managing the website, handling client consultations that required visual assessment. But the designs, the actual creation of each piece, that was all Bliss, created by touch and instinct. She and Wolf had fallen into an easy partnership. They cooked dinners together, sat on the porch in the evenings talking about everything and nothing, became a family without ever formally acknowledging it. But something had shifted. Wolf would catch himself staring at Bliss when she laughed at one of Honey's terrible jokes. Bliss would find herself reaching for Wolf's hand without thinking, just wanting that connection. Honey had started making very pointed comments. "When are you and Daddy going to get married, Bliss? Because you basically already act married. You make breakfast together and talk about boring adult things and smile at each other when you think I'm not looking." It was a quiet evening, snow falling gently outside, when everything finally came to a head. Honey was at a sleepover, and Wolf and Bliss sat on the couch with hot chocolate. "Wolf," Bliss said suddenly, "I need to tell you something." "What's that?" Wolf asked, his heart beating faster.
"I love you. I've been in love with you for months. I kept quiet because I didn't want to complicate things while the trial was happening, and I was scared that if you didn't feel the same, I'd lose this family we've built." She was speaking quickly now. "But I can't keep it inside anymore. You saved my life. You showed me what real love looks like. Patient, kind, steady, expecting nothing in return. You gave me back my faith in myself. And I love you for everything." Wolf was quiet for a moment, then took her hand. "Bliss, I love you too. I've been in love with you for months. I kept quiet for the same reasons. I didn't want to pressure you while you were healing." He touched her face gently. "You've become the most important person in my life after Honey. You've brought light back into this house. You've shown my daughter what strength looks like. You've made me believe in love again." His voice broke. "I love you, Bliss Frost. I love your strength, your courage, everything about you." Bliss started to cry, tears of pure joy. "Really?" "Really," Wolf confirmed, pulling her into his arms. They kissed then, tender and sweet and full of promise. A kiss that tasted like hope, like second chances, like coming home. "So what do we do now?" Bliss asked. Wolf smiled. "Now we build a life together, the three of us, if you'll have us. Wolf, you and Honey are my family. You've been my family since the day you pulled over. I'm not going anywhere." "Good, because neither are we."
Wolf and Bliss married on a perfect spring day the following year. Honey, now 10, served as flower girl, an official describer of everything. "Bliss, your dress is like clouds and starlight mixed together. It moves like water when you walk, and it has tiny sparkly things that catch the light and look like stars. It's so beautiful that even if you could see it, you'd cry happy tears." The ceremony was simple but meaningful. All their friends attended. Detective Morrison with his wife, Patricia, Maya, and dozens of community members who'd watched Bliss's transformation with admiration. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Honey stage whispered loudly, "If anyone says anything, I'm going to be very upset with them," which got laughs from everyone. When the officiant said, "You may kiss your bride," Wolf lifted Bliss's chin and kissed her with all the love in his heart. "I see you," Wolf whispered. "I've always seen you." "And I see you too," Bliss whispered back, "in all the ways that matter." The reception was filled with laughter and dancing. Honey gave an enthusiastic toast that mostly consisted of her describing everything happening for Bliss's benefit, which made everyone laugh and cry at the same time. 2 years after their wedding, life had settled into something beautiful and unexpected. Bliss's jewelry business had expanded to 7 states, with pieces featured in prestigious galleries. Each piece came with a card, "Designed by touch, created with love."
Wolf had opened his own woodworking studio, creating furniture that Bliss helped design. They worked together, combining his woodwork with her metalwork, custom tables with intricate inlays, jewelry boxes with impossible detail. Honey, now 12, had started writing children's books about a blind superhero named Vivian who could see people's hearts. The books were selling remarkably well, used in schools to teach about disability and empathy. But the biggest change had come 6 months ago, when Bliss announced at dinner, her hand resting on her stomach, "There's going to be 4 of us soon." Wolf had frozen mid-bite. "What? I'm pregnant. We're having a baby." Honey had screamed with joy so loudly that Andre came running, only to find his niece dancing around, chanting, "I'm going to be a big sister." Now, on a warm October afternoon, almost exactly 3 years after that rainy night, Bliss sat on their porch, cradling their 3-month-old daughter. Her name was Melody, and she had Wolf's dark hair and what might be Bliss's green eyes. Honey sat reading her latest manuscript. And then Vivian told the boy, "Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about being afraid and doing the right thing anyway. What do you think?" "I think it's perfect," Bliss said, rocking Melody gently. Wolf pulled up, home from a client meeting. He paused, looking at his family, his wife with their baby, his daughter with her stories, the autumn leaves falling like blessings.
"What are you staring at, Daddy?" Honey called. "Everything," Wolf said. "Everything I never knew I needed." He joined them, kissing Bliss and stroking Melody's soft hair. The baby made a small sound and Bliss smiled. "Hard to believe it's been 3 years," Bliss said softly. "Since the bus stop?" "Since everything changed." Sometimes when they drove past that old bus stop, less often now that they'd moved to a bigger house, Wolf would squeeze Bliss's hand. "That's where everything changed," he'd say. "That's where my real life began," Bliss would correct. "The life where I'm loved for exactly who I am." Honey would add from the back seat, "And that's where Daddy proved that heroes don't wear capes. They just show up when someone needs them." And in those moments, surrounded by the people she loved,